Justify call.
Good morning once again. And I will come to your question in a second, but
Fair.
I think we must not mince words here. We actually must all condemn the actions of the minister, and in a way that tends to perpetuate what we've seen historically over the years in terms of acts of violence, thuggery, vandalism, vigilantism, etc. That often tends to be a prelude when one is getting into national elections, i.e., presidential, parliamentary elections, or even during by-elections. But I think, and coming back to your question, you asked, at the core for me of all of this is that fundamental trust deficit that we have, as a country, and the trust deficit we have in institutions carrying out their mandate. So you ask yourself, why would the minister, actually want to go around some of these centers acting more or less like the policing authority or the security authority? It just belies the point that most of us don't trust, the processes that have been set aside to work in a way that inures to the collective good or to the collective public good. And for me, the minister is actually no exception. You can go back most recently to the Carlos Ahenkra issue, similar things where the guy, went to the center ostensibly to sort of, police the outcomes of those activities. But in this particular case where he went or she went in there and we saw some violent confrontation coming or resulting from those actions, like Uncle Kweku said, I think it's totally avoidable. There's actually no need for her, being in that particular place. And even if she was there, if you look at the actions or her statement, she went in there, thinking that there was going to be some violence, and therefore I have to carry my gun or whatever implement with a view of, protecting myself. There are questions around the forensics that would have to be resolved, i.e., was it just one shot? Was it multiple shots? Did she fire it herself or it came from some of the other security persons? That I'll leave it for the investigative authorities. But I again think that the minister must step aside for investigations to be carried out at the minimum, or her position has actually become untenable. We must hold these persons to a higher standard and a higher rigor, because they are part reflective of the society that we live in. But at the core of all of the issues and all of the discussions, really, it's a fundamental trust deficit in the society that we live in, and the trust deficit across all manner of institutions, including even with like the security services. And you can go back to the whole do or die, winner take all mentality of our politics, that I must be there to protect or safeguard those registration processes, because then the outcomes will not inure to me or to my party. That's sort of my initial comment around that. I personally don't think that the minister should actually have been there, but the reason why she went there is because of the fact that we don't trust our institutions to work, and we've more or less superimposed the authority of policing these processes on ourselves, and that's something that we have to address fundamentally as a society. So those are my kind of initial preliminary comments.